If you've got young kids, you might be wondering how to entice them to use iPads for more than entertainment. Serial entrepreneur Amey Laud has developed Learn and Earn for kids 1st through 4th grades. Let's hear what he has to share.
Hi, my name is Amey Laud, and I'm CEO and founder of Hyperware Labs. We are developer of a new app called Learn and Earn, which is an iPad app for kids. And what the app does is it lets parents motivate their kids to meet learning goals by setting rewards that they can earn as they meet those goals. So it's the first app we'd like to think which is both a learning app and a parenting app at the same time. iPads and tablets have become essentially an entertainment device, and the average American kid spends 2 hours of screen time every single day on average, watching, essentially entertaining themselves on a screen, which is almost always now a tablet. So you had this issue that on the one hand you have this phenomenal device that you could use to improve skills that are related to learning. You could be reading. In theory, when parents buy an iPad, that's what they have in mind. This is something that could be of significant potential benefit. And the other part of the problem is parents, because parents today are busier than they ever were before, as a generation now. And it is a generation that is more involved and wants to be more involved with how their kids are brought up. So you have this incredible dichotomy. They want to be involved parents. They're really concerned about how well their kids are doing. They bought their kids an iPad or a tablet, and they find that these devices have just become yet another, the new TV, essentially. But as we spoke to more parents, we realized that in fact the emphasis with a lot of parents was about the earning part as much as it was about the learning. And so we realized that so many parents have different expectations, and the emphasis is so different. And it was a very valid expectation in this case that a lot of parents realized that kids ought to understand what it means to earn something. And a lot of parents have this issue. So we've incorporated what I believe is a lot of these thoughts and ideas into how the app builds itself out today. And so I'd like to think that when this app goes out to a parent today, it is essentially the culmination of a parenting dilemma that we are addressing as much as it is a learning dilemma. And that's why we hope that it is an app that both kids will love as well as the parents. We are a team that is very distributed, and I think as a startup, the biggest issue and the challenge that you face as a startup is hiring the right people. And we've been fortunate today to have a team that is very distributed, and we're in 5 different time zones. And hiring those people, especially now that they were distributed, was one of our challenges. And I think that was a hurdle. And the other hurdle was that the way we've built this app out, we do not build the content ourselves. We are an app developer, and we understand what it takes to build an app that incorporates the best technologies and tools and a lot of intelligence that goes into the app. But we've worked with a partner that incorporates all of the curriculum that has gone into the app. So we had to work to establish a relationship and a trust with a partner that was willing to work with us before the app could actually be available. So we had this chicken and egg issue that we also had to address. So this to me are the 2 major hurdles that we've essentially have to actively work on. And today we're proud to say that we work with a school right here in the Portland district called the Gardner School of Arts and Sciences, and they've worked with us for the last year or more to build the curriculum, the math curriculum with which the app is launching. As a company, I think been fortunate that we've had an opportunity to be part of 2 ecosystems, an ecosystem in Singapore where the company was initially had its roots, and then out of Portland and the startup scene over here. And so we've had an opportunity to to make the most out of both of these ecosystems. And speaking a little bit about the Portland scene, it is unlike the scene in many other places that I've experienced, in that it's a very collegial atmosphere. I think there is an incredible sense of entrepreneurs reaching out to each other and essentially helping out in little ways. And with startups, it's the little tips that count, because you have 100 things to take care of. And having this really collegial, very communal sort of setup out of Portland has been an incredible resource. So that is, to me, a resource in itself, just being out here. The other is, I think, the community of both parents and teachers that have participated in essentially being part of this app as it stands today. So the feedback that I've received from parents that were willing to provide honest and frank feedback, and I think that again, you can do as many internet surveys as you like, but it's the qualitative aspect that when you reach out to someone that has a problem and you say, is this something that you relate with? And is exactly how do you relate to this problem? And do you think doing this would address it or not? And speaking to all of these parents has been also an equal resource. What inspires me as an entrepreneur is, I think, one, I've been, I've had a lot of passionate teachers, and one of them has been my mother. So she was a teacher all of her life, and she's an inspiration because you could see the passion sort of come through. And a teacher plays a very important role in the life of anyone growing up, and I think it's almost like a third parent is the teachers that you grow up around. And also I've been lucky to have really good teachers through my own schooling. And they've been sort of an inspiration in the sense that you recognize what it means to have been fortunate enough to have a good learning experience and to have enjoyed your education and to be the beneficiary of a system that worked. And you realize that a lot of kids, on the other hand, and a lot of parents today, for whatever pressures, find it hard to keep up with that challenge. So that, to me, is a constant inspiration, is how do we help? We've got all these technologies now. We've got the iPad, we've got, it's a new world that we live in. How do we make the most of this world and actually make something that works, given today's challenges, given how, learning and parenting intersects today? And I think that's been a constant inspiration to me, especially after I've had kids. That became sort of a pressing point. The other inspiration, of course, is the people that have built startups and made them into successful brands. And I think a lot of these stories are inspiring because you always hear of the one-off story that got it right the first time and that got their check on their first pitch. But you've got to realize that 99 out of 100 pitches don't actually end up you don't end up with that check in that first meeting, and you don't end up with that customer with your first product. So when you hear the stories of people that have built large and successful companies, you relate to their stories and you seek inspiration in the fact that ultimately, I think the biggest facet was their persistence. I mean, you had to have all of the other things, of course. You had to have the skills and the team, all of that. But it's the persistence in having a vision and sort of seeing it through, which constantly inspires me on an everyday basis. Well, we are at a very interesting juncture with the app is ready. It's we've had phenomenal response in terms of a promotional preview that we ran of the app. It was a 2-minute video that we produced, and we had over 200,000 people coming in to our Facebook account and having a look. And to me, that's a very positive, a very encouraging sign, if I would call it that. So, and we've had hundreds of people sign up even before the app is actually launched. So we are in this interesting mode of deciding what do we do next? How do we cater? Are we catering enough to the concerns of a much wider? We might have spoken to 100 parents, but now we're talking about 200,000 people potentially downloading this and using this. And so I think it'd be very interesting. We stand on this abyss in terms of not knowing and being cognizant at the same time of the challenge that is ahead of us, is that I say it's almost like a pregnancy. You work for 9 months and you've got this baby, and then when it comes out, it kind of falls flat on its face. It's this quickly little thing that doesn't really know exactly how to stand, and so it still needs a lot of hand holding in those first few months before it is set out on its own. So I kind of feel like that right now. So it's the abyss in a way is how a mother might feel at the end of a 9-month pregnancy when you have that child and you think it's ready for the world, but it's not actually ready. And so we are in that mode where we are listening, and we've built this on the basis of a lot of feedback, and we will continue to build this on more feedback.